Bam! Good evening, this is Attorney Vince Davis, and we are here for evening office hours. Tonight we're going to be talking about two things. A question that was posed to me, why, Mr. Davis, can't you represent mother and father in the same case? And let me tell you, I'm going to give you some tips on how to help your attorney. This recently happened to me, and I thought, maybe I should mention this to other clients and they can help themselves and help their attorney. Okay, why can't I represent both mother and father? Someone asked me that recently. It was the mother, and she said, me and my husband are staying together. Why can't we be represented by you, Mr. Davis? Well, the reason is because there exists an actual conflict of interest between me representing the mother and the father in most juvenile dependency cases. For sure, there is something called a potential conflict of interest, and I might be able to do it, but in most cases, there's an actual conflict of interest. Let me give you an example. In this case, it was alleged that the father beat up the mother in a domestic violence incident and that she sustained injuries. Now, a lawyer can't represent the victim and the alleged perpetrator. There is a conflict of interest. Another conflict comes up because sometimes people split apart in their relationship during these types of cases, and how is the attorney going to fight for the children to be represented, or fight to be released, the children released to the mother or the father? It's just a conflict of interest. The attorney cannot represent both without coming very close or for sure violating the professional rules of conduct, which is you can't represent competing sides. Now, have I ever represented more than one person in the juvenile dependency court? Yes, I have. It's generally not parents, it's generally relatives, for example, grandmother and grandfather, who are both trying to get the child out of foster care. At the time, there is no actual conflict of interest. There could be a potential conflict of interest if grandmother and grandfather break up during the case and decide to fight each other for custody of the grandchildren. But in that type of case, that rarely happens, in my opinion. So I don't mind representing people that could have a conflict of interest in the future. Generally, when that happens, I have to get them to sign a waiver of the conflict of interest or the potential conflict of interest. Now, a client cannot sign a waiver for an actual conflict of interest. So, in the example that I gave you where a mother was allegedly beat up by the father, that's an actual conflict of interest. Can't represent both. They can't even agree to have you represent both of them. So the safe play for most attorneys is to only represent one parent. Have I ever seen an attorney represent or try to represent both parties, both the mother and the father? Yes, I have. I could probably count it on two hands in 31 years as a lawyer, someone trying to represent people that have actual conflicts. And generally, one of the attorneys will bring it up, or the judge will bring it up and mention that the judge may not allow the attorney to represent both parties in a juvenile dependency case. So that's why, that's the simple answer. I know a lot of people, maybe I get this call 2 or 3 times a week. Mr. Davis, we want you to represent mother and father. Can't do it. Now, I get this call also. Hey, Mr. Davis, I want to hire you to represent my children. Can't do it. In California, children are appointed attorneys by the Superior Court in the county where the case is pending. So parents can't go out and hire Mr. Davis, attorney, to represent the children in the juvenile dependency case. Now, if it was another type of case, perhaps a civil case where the child was injured in a car accident or something, of course the parent could hire Mr. Davis to represent that child in that case, but not in a juvenile dependency case. And generally, Not generally. Not in a family law case either. All right. Here's the next question. Mr. Davis, what can I do to help my attorney, be it court appointed or private? Now, recently I represented someone that is involved or works at a law firm. Okay? And when it came time to the hearing, they had presented me with a notebook. In the notebook, it had several things. And I want you to write this down because these are the things that you should do to help your attorney win your case so that your children can be released back to you and back to your home. Number one, give the attorney a typed statement of your story. Notice I didn't say a typed statement of the facts, because usually civilians don't know the important facts of the case. So if you just tell the broader story of what happened and what brought you to this point in the case in the juvenile dependency court, the attorney can read the story, might even get valuable information, including the facts that would help him or her win a case in the juvenile dependency courts. The second thing is, when you get those social worker reports, you should read them very carefully. And you should mark, number one, Mr. Davis, this isn't true because. Number two, Mr. Davis, this isn't true because. Number 10, Mr. Davis, this isn't exactly what happened. What happened was. Go through the entire report, point out the facts that are not true or twisted. Let me give you an example. I was having a conversation with a client not too long ago, and the client and I were sitting in my conference room. It's post-COVID, or we thought it was post-COVID. And, we're talking back and forth. And the client was giving me so much information, there was no way I could take notes to keep up with the client. So in that particular case, I asked the client, as I do in a lot of cases, hey, you know what? I want you to tell me your story, but I don't want you to write it. I don't want you to verbally tell me. I want you to write it down, double space, 14-point font. So if you do that, that will be a great help for your attorney. The next thing to do is go over a list or make a list of all possible witnesses that you have that can help your case. This will give the attorney a start as to who the witnesses are, and in one or two sentences, describe what the witness is going to say if brought to court. The next thing that you should do is form a list of exhibits. Now, what are exhibits? I'm going to give you the definition that I gleaned from the California Evidence Code. They're documents. What are documents? Well, documents are pieces of paper. They are pictures. They are videos. Those are all considered documents under the Evidence Code. So, there might be some document that nobody knows of but you that could help defend your case. Now, you have to bring this up to the attorney, maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks in advance, because the attorney is going to have to subpoena that document or the preparer of that document into court so that it will be admitted into evidence. Just because you have a document doesn't mean it's going to be admitted, right? Okay. So those are the 4 things that you should do when helping to help your attorney win your case. Give him or her the story. Give us a notation, an explanation of things that aren't true in the social worker reports. Reports are plural. Help your attorney start off with making a witness list, and 1 or 2 sentences about what that witness would testify to, and of course a list of the exhibits. And also, I think I've explained why an attorney cannot represent both people in a juvenile dependency case, both the mother, father, or one or all of the minors. You're probably watching this video because you or someone has a juvenile dependency case and you're fighting CPS to get your child back. I answer questions like these every day of the week. Sometimes 6, 7, 8, 9 times a day, I'll have a conversation with a client or a potential client. If you have a question, give me a call. 888-888-6582, and I'll be happy to discuss your matter with you. Also, take a look at my website, fightchildprotectiveservices.com. You'll find a list of resources there, including videos. You'll find more videos at my YouTube channel. Just type in Vincent Davis at the search bar at youtube.com. So, there are no office hours over the weekend, but on Saturday at 7 p.m. Pacific time, my weekly 2-hour show will be airing on KABC 790 AM talk radio in Los Angeles, California. If you're not able to hear this show on the radio, it is live streamed live at kabc.com, and you can listen on any device, even your phone. It's also going to be live streamed right here on Facebook, right here on this page, The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. You can watch me live and listen to me live, talk to callers who call in and they want to share their story and they want to ask questions. This week I'm going to be having a couple special guests on the show who are going to be talking about real reform of CPS in California. So be sure to stay tuned at 7 p.m. tomorrow evening. Look, that's it for office hours tonight. I want to thank you for watching. Have a good